Welcome to the session of LitFestx. We're joined with Samit Basu. As most of you would know Samit, but for an introduction, he is an author of several books, including the Game World trilogy, which was India's pioneering and best-selling fantasy series. He's also the author of Turbulence and Resistance, which are both science fiction novels that were international hits. And he is an author of a popular children's series called The Adventures of Stoop. Samit also does a lot of other writing across several different genres and for different types of media. Samit, welcome to LitFestx, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I mean, it's always been a dream to be in a kind of interaction where there's potentially a large audience which has no idea whether I'm wearing pants or not. So, thank you. Like, it was a dream. Like in the when I first started meeting authors at LitFest, there was that simultaneous bipolar thing of everyone really likes being there because everyone wants attention, but at the same time, being writers, they're all complaining about having to get out of the house. Now you've managed to solve that problem for, and on behalf of all Indian authors, if they haven't yet, thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
I am wearing pants.
Well, yeah, you just gave it away. You shouldn't have clarified.
Yeah. But the thing is, I would have held the suspense longer, but I'm really sure no one cares. So yeah, I thought it was
great.
Sorry, but we were about to talk about meaningful things, so we should do that.
No, but this is meaningful as well, I'm sure, for a lot of your fans. And so, Samit, are you at your Mumbai residence, or where are you currently?
Yeah, so I'm at my Mumbai residence, which is on Mud Island, which is it's like living in 3 cities. So I live in Delhi, Bombay, and Mud.
Wow. And are any of the books in the bookshelf behind you, any one of those written by you? Can we?
Oh yeah,
see something?
There's a whole stack of them. This up to here. Can you see this?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, so all of this is my stuff. So that's the last 13 years of my life. Some of it is repeat because some of it is translations and fat anthologies that I just have short stories in. And so they're there to add an artificial thickness to the quality of my work. But yeah, most of those are my books.
Artificial thickness. I'm wondering where is that used? Where is that phrase used?
It's on the internet, which is where we are. So I thought it would be entirely fitting.
Yeah. So to our viewers, today we have Samit to discuss with us, amongst other things, superheroes and pop cultures in India. And of course, where we are going with writing in a post-Facebook era. Starting off on that, Samit, Facebook and even Twitter have started off an era of unseen amounts of user-generated content, and for that matter, even YouTube. So today you've got people making videos, small bits and pieces on Facebook, which are gaining a lot of traction, a lot of viewership, and many times getting monetized. And you have professional sort of writers and authors coming out of this entire milieu. Where do you see the entire business, the entire ecosystem, the market, and readership evolving, given that you've got all of this going on and really sort of going at it at real high speed? So the velocity of this adoption of this content is growing manifold as we speak.
See, I mean, my first book was published in the prehistoric times before there was Facebook, right? And I think the broadband generation had just started becoming a thing in India. So over the last many years, so it's 2016 now, and everything has changed hugely. And as someone who does this professionally, you've got to understand that it works in 2 directions. On the one hand, there's the universal appeal of the thing that you started doing in the first place, right? And a lot of the, let's say, for want of a better word, the value that you can bring to it as someone who's been doing it for a while and someone who knows what the essentials of it are and isn't distracted by the ever-changing exact way in which your material is coming out. You've got to really focus on doing what you started out doing in the first place, assuming that the basic skill set for doing the work that you do is what led to take these decisions in the first place. The other thing is that you've got to remind yourself to not consistently get frustrated by the new trend, because these are now appearing on a 5-minute basis. I just found the technology that it was the first barrier technology for me where I felt really, I'm too old for this. And that was Snapchat. Like, up to Instagram, I was okay, right? Now, there's always going to be new forms of storytelling in any medium that immediately jump out of any expansion in the methods of storytelling. But at the end of the day, for example, every time, you don't have to choose between ebooks and books, for example. It's not like every time that a new way of telling short stories online arrives, it's not like the print book is going to die immediately. So I think the most important thing is learning to enjoy new forms of storytelling instead of being threatened by them, and to constantly keep figuring out how you can use your essential skills to keep working in the new medium, which is not an impossible thing to do. It's often an irritating thing to have to do, because increasingly, especially if you have a sense of how it was before all this noise started happening, which I do, then being a writer nowadays is like a continuous live performance. It's like standing in a room where, everyone in the world today is a writer, a photographer, a sapiosexual, an investor, and all of that, right? And if you've been doing it for a while, it gets more and more difficult to have to continuously stand up and shout about the fact that you're producing work. So it's important to draw those lines as well. You've got to know when to just sit back and focus and do the work that you're doing because you like doing it.
Right. But also coming to Samit, when you mentioned that you have to enjoy what you're doing, but don't you think this entire phenomena of social media and what we discussed in terms of Facebook and YouTube or even Snapchat is redefining what a writer or a content creator does, right? I mean, in some way, is it all about writing now? Is it about content from a more broader context? Today, you've got mashups between text and video. You've got flash fiction. There's so much going on there. So how does one really define saying, well, this is me and this is what I do and I'm a writer, or this is the kind of content I will consume, right?
Right. See, I mean, there's nowadays, especially because there's so much demand for you to continuously define yourself and project your definition of yourself to hopefully new audiences in every field happens. I think people start off like in some people's cases, I think the first sentence they write is "I'm a writer." It took me some 3 published fat books before I could summon up the confidence to tell people that that was what I did for a living, even though I'd been doing that for a while. So that's just an attitudinal shift that's happened. You take a selfie on your phone, you have a passion for photography, right? So I found that I enjoy working in different media. For example, I like working in comics, I like working in film, I like tweeting, I like Facebook and all of that. And it's because but it's been with a certain amount of being able to understand that you're not going to become some kind of star of every new medium just because you entered it. So you've got to find a certain amount of enjoyment in putting your work in any form and creating your work in any space. I mean, I just find a lot of novelists, for example, that I know are thinking of just pretty much shutting shop because they can't compete with Wattpad or whatever the newest this is going to change storytelling forever is. But it's really not about that. It's about keeping an open mind, learning to enjoy each different new technology wave as it comes along. I remember when I joined Twitter in 2007, I found it quite challenging because I didn't feel like, I felt like anything I wanted to say would take a minimum of 50,000 words. So I didn't see how I was going to do it in 140 characters. But just letting go of that sense of, everything, every word I utter is very important, and learning how to just spout nonsense in shorter sentences instead of over a really long span of words made me realize that there was a lot unique in every storytelling platform that I could enjoy for being what it is. And it wasn't like an extra burden or an extra challenge. It was just another way to use the same skill set that hopefully has been growing over the last decade. And I enjoy it. I don't expect to immediately find ways to monetize it and become grand in that specific sphere. But it's a fun experience. And the wonderful thing about all of this new technology is that it compresses the time in which you get to experience new things. And that's as much fun for a creator of material as it is for a consumer of it.
Right. You know, talking about the consumption of different material, India has had some amount of a pop culture era, and then I think
Right.
it got dissipated in and remained in just a few pockets, right? What has been your sort of view on pop culture in India, and do you see some good stuff happening right now?
No, I think again, especially post this whole explosion of different internet media thing, there's a lot of fascinating material coming out all over India, and especially in the responses of your everyday internet user to the kind of very few channels of large media that we're all consuming. Every day there's something hilarious happening on the internet about politics, about Bollywood, about cricket, and so on. So the sensibilities to have a pop culture as rich and diverse as, say, America or Japan or France has always existed in India. But the nature of its expression in India is actually very unique. It's not something that you can compare with the way people consume pop culture anywhere else in the world. And I think if I were to grossly oversimplify and say what I think the difference is, I think people here are much more emotionally obsessed with the pop culture that they consume, as opposed to needing to complete a collection in any way. Which is why,
Right.
in this day and age, when all the means of production and distribution exist, we still don't have that kind of, obsessive geek culture where you have to collect everything and you really invest in spending a lot of time watching things and seeing things and reading everything around something and getting the toys and obsessively following it, because we've reached this phase where we have to be experts on 800 different things at the same time, right? And it doesn't allow for the kind of everyday engagement at an obsessive level that you'd see on an underground train in Tokyo or New York, where people are just immersed in worlds. We're looking in every direction at once. In many ways, that's actually similar to the experience of, say, writing a 140,000 word novel versus putting out a 140 character tweet. We're by nature clearly a very attention deficit people. So our pop culture is also defined by that.
No. Also, I think we have a
I
very
feel like I'm
frugal
not making
mindset.
any sense.
No, I was saying that also we are also a very frugal lot of people, right? So we don't want to spend too much money. I mean, in addition to the attention and time, we don't want to spend too much money hoarding several things just about one aspect of our lives, right? So
No, I guess I don't know. I mean, I hesitate to say that we're a frugal people, though clearly we are. But it's also a lot of that is, I think, defined by your sense of what everyone else is getting away with. So if I can pirate a movie, should I or not? Do I want to deal with that huge ethical burden? If no one else is collecting these toys, should I bother? What will it do for me socially? I think what will it do for me socially and what will it say about me are things that people consider much more than, do I like this? Um, I think that's a greater level of thought that goes into that.
so
What am I a fan of? How do I define myself very quickly in universal terms that people will understand? Which is why, I mean, for example, this is why people keep going to a lot of Bollywood movies that they know they won't like. It's just something that they define themselves by.
you know, uh, coming to that, when you're talking about Bollywood movies or any kind of icons in India, we don't have many superheroes, homegrown superheroes. And
We have lots, Kumar. It's just
where?
that you haven't heard of them. Yeah. There are, and again, I'm
Now
like
I'm
even
saying
in the
if,
comic
if
space.
you if you remove let's say on television, if you remove Shaktiman for a minute, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
In recent years, we
Consider
haven't.
it done.
But
No, but look, see, it's just that our let again to use the India versus the rest of the world comparison, our cultures develop in isolation. They don't develop as a sort of transmedia whole the way that they do. So, for example, if you take a character like Spider-Man, there's a Spider-Man everything.
Exactly.
There's Spider-Man there's a Spider-Man underwear, there's a Spider-Man tower probably somewhere, right? We have, I mean, every Western superhero that you can think of, we have an Indian copy somewhere. There are a number of publishers. There's like dozens, even hundreds possibly of Indian superheroes, some of which are rooted in mythology, some of which are rooted in Western superheroes and recoloring them, some of which a lot more thought has gone into. There's actually a wide pantheon, but because they haven't made the leap to movies or even television,
Yeah.
People haven't heard of them because people aren't consuming things across media. The few
Yeah.
people who are consuming books are usually reading only books and avoiding movies. People who are watching movies usually don't have time for anything else. People who are watching Indian TV are really not thinking at all, let alone thinking of other media. So it becomes so if you're looking at the question of why don't we have, say, an Indian Game of Thrones, we lack neither the skill nor the technology to create it. What we lack is the cultural confidence to say that, okay, we're going to take these books, these are vast, we're going to make them into a TV show. It's intelligent, but people will still watch it. Then we're going to bring out toys, we're going to do all these things.
Exactly.
And that confidence in the audience is hugely lacking in India among producers in any medium, even in media where it doesn't cost much to produce things. And that reflects in, there's so much diversity and so much richness and so much, say, material of every form on the free internet wherever Indian writers or artists are working. There's a lot of very diverse material in books because it doesn't cost anything to create a book. The moment you get to something that's actually extremely expensive to produce, you get risk averse to a ridiculous point where, you project regressive values on your audience that possibly don't even exist and self-censor yourself into a point of absolute banality, and end up with something that no one can really invest in emotionally because there's nothing there. So our pop culture, until there are fundamental changes that I can't even comprehend, is not going to reflect our Sheldon Coopers are going to be consuming The Flash. They're not going to be consuming Shaktiman when he returns from the minute we removed him for.
Right. Very interesting, Samit. You've done so much of work across so many different media genres. Do you see a lot of change going forward in your own work, or do you expect to be doing things very differently as a writer who's been working on so many different genres and so many different kinds of media? Do you expect a lot of change personally?
Expect a lot of change in the way I'm approaching things, or in the fields that I'm working in?
No, in the fields that you're working
in. See, the thing is that I do expect a lot of change, but that's largely because those changes need to happen. But those changes have been supposed to happen for the last decade, and a lot of them are changes that I've been really looking forward to. It's easy to get extremely cynical about the future of any kind of creative entertainment field in India. I think by and large I've managed to not do that. What's interesting for me is that, when you're producing things collaboratively, there's an insane amount of talent here. There's even, and not just among, creators of material. There are amazing producers, directors, there are studio executives that when you have those conversations, you're completely on the same wavelength all the way through. It's just at the point of actually making things that are risky and putting them out there, everyone suddenly develops cold feet. Now, the warming of these feet is going to be part of a broader change in environment that I certainly can't predict. It's something that I think we were on a certain track towards a certain creative explosion across media before the recession set in. Right. I mean, if you look at the early 2000s, even say in Bollywood, which is usually your yardstick for safe material, what is deemed acceptable. There was a lot of really good work coming out of Bollywood from, say, 2001 to 2005 or 6. After the recession, everyone's suddenly gone back to whatever they think is safe or was safe 20 years ago. So, and that's just looking at the economic aspect of it. There are a million other factors, political, social, where's money suddenly coming in from,
Sure.
what are the new things that, so for example, something like, say, what Pokemon Go has done to the gaming industry over the last week, right?
Yeah.
You can't predict something like that. At the same time, you can see that, okay, augmented reality has been around for years. Pokemon has been around for years. Someone has been playing pranks saying that this exists. Clearly, there's going to be a watershed moment when this happens. When it happens, then you celebrate the fact that something new and interesting has come into the world. But until it does, you can only hope for change, but you can't really predict it. And the more time I spend, like I've already been telling stories for a living for 13, 14 years, right? For me, it's a balance between hoping that things will change and kind of ensuring my work to protect my career, even if it doesn't.
Right.
So, but I mean, that's there's nothing special about that. I think anyone who's trying to do anything is facing those same challenges every day when they're trying to create stuff.
Sure.
I'm sure there are parallels in your experience in creating LitFestx, for example, right? The challenges that
Oh,
you're facing.
so you're at least making a living doing what you're doing. With LitFestx, we don't even do that. So.
You're sitting in a nice office. I believe it's in South Bombay. I think you're being extra modest there. But yeah, give it time.
Great. On that note, we'll bring the session to an end. Samit, this was a really fun and fantastic conversation with you. I hope you enjoyed being on LitFestx. We've got a steady
Absolute
stream
pleasure,
of
and thank you
viewers,
for having me.
and we look forward to hosting you sometime again soon.
I look forward to it as well. Thanks very much.
Thanks.